Jamaica politics and cover. Pick up yourself because you don't know you will discover. Natalie, you're bigger than George Washington Bridge and Island Empire State Building. Straight to the ceiling. Sin, Lord of mercy. Jamaica is not a place to go all. Not when certain guys in control. Jehovah God no. Lord of mercy. Hey. Some say that them a diety. And they must suffer to hell no rotted. Natalie, more you pick up yourself. Right now because you're rougher than them. Hey, they must say that they must die. And they must suffer to hell no rotted.
Hello, JPU family. Welcome back to another episode of Jamaica Politics Uncovered. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Please subscribe. If you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. So, tonight, as promised, we are here with Senator Marlon Morgan. And we're going to have a little chat here tonight about a lot of things. The phone line is going to be open after a while where you can call in and pose your questions to the senator. Marlon is one of the newest members of the Senate. And before he was appointed to the Senate, he was the member of communication for the Jamaica Labour Party. So, Marlon, welcome to Jamaica Politics Uncovered. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us. You are the first member of government, Senate, to come over here and Crystal platform. So, for that, I thank you. I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself to the people, Marlon. Tell them, what high school you went to, which community you come from, when you joined the JLP, what positions you held, so on and so forth.
Indeed.
The floor is yours.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. How is the audio, by the way?
The audio is good. Let me
Well,
see
let
what
me
the chat is
extend
saying.
a warm greeting to you and, of course, our viewers, the entire JPU family, both here in Jamaica and, of course, those joining us from where you are in the diaspora. It's a delight to be on. We're trailblazing, so I am delighted to be the first member, as it were, of officialdom on the JLP side, at least, to be on the platform and sharing with your viewers this evening. So much things are happening here on the Rock. So much things to say right now, and I trust over the next hour or so we'll unpack much of it. And I am making myself available, as you said in the lead-in, Natalie, to interface with some of the the viewers who may seek to call in and raise issues and seek clarification or responses on one issue or another. So I describe myself as no stranger, as it were, to the body politic, certainly the cut and thrust of JLP, PNP, political engagement. I divulged certain information when I made my maiden contribution to a debate in the Senate a couple of Fridays ago. I'm essentially a young professional. I would describe myself as a communications specialist. I grew up in Cumberland, in Portmore. When I contributed to that debate in the Senate, I made the point that the Portmore debate was particularly close to home for me because my family, I hail from a humble working class family. We're not Topanaris, but we're focused people, and we don't cower or fear people who may think that they are Topanaris and have things over us. I am one of those Jamaicans who would have aspired to achieve and attain great heights, but do so by dint of applying oneself throughout school and by virtue of one's own hard work, diligent effort, because as we know, education is the key to success. So I hail from a working class background. I would have attended school in Portmore at the primary level. At the primary level, I would have excelled and attained a place at KC, Kingston College,
Okay.
where I was involved in co-curricular activities as well as the academics and things. So we moved on from there to pursue a degree in political science and international relations. But I was always prolific at English and those subjects that allow you to express yourself at school.
Okay.
And I dare say those that aptitude, as it were, has traveled with me and has endured over the years, so much so that having left university, I at some point attained employment with the Bruce Golding-led government at the time, serving as a technical advisor to then Finance Minister Audley Shaw at the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. And following a 2-year stint with then Minister Shaw, I went to the Ministry of Education to serve the then Education Minister, Andrew Holness. And so this was back in 2011. And as you alluded to in the lead-in, I was a member of the Young Professional Affiliate of the JLP, that is G2K, Generation 2000.
Mm-hmm.
I served at one point as the chairperson for the Public Relations, Policy and Communications Committee. So I've always been in the business of, providing information, been in the business of messaging and essentially challenging erroneous narratives and bringing truthful perspectives and content to the people, because we don't believe that the politics is to be characterized by falsehoods or misinformation and disinformation. We know that that is the practice of some, both here in Jamaica and further afield. But we know that when you provide wholesome information and you level with people and bring them into your confidence as a player in the political space, that people will gravitate to you, people will appreciate your forthrightness and your candid disposition. And so that's what I center my brand around. I possess a command of many areas in government. So finance, education. I have served at the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture, and Fisheries. And I was doing a stint recently in the civil service. So for those persons who are inquiring, and for some, I may be a fairly new or a relatively new entity in the political landscape. It's not entirely so. Between 2012 and 2016, I was one of the senior aides to then opposition leader Andrew Holness. And at some point between 2014 and 2016, I was the deputy opposition spokesperson on agriculture. So I have been around. And like I said, at some point during the life of this administration, I was in the civil service working at the then Ministry of Education and Youth as a senior technical coordinator, where, among other things, I undertook research and prepared the cabinet submissions. So we're strong on policy. We know what the direction in which government is headed. We know how to articulate policy-related issues and highlight what the positives are and what the potential, downsides are. So that's the kind of thing we've been involved in with the civil service. Up to recently, there are some folks who try to take a swipe at me by indicating that I am a member of the JLP Communications Task Force and employed at the Ministry of Education, reporting to the Permanent Secretary. Little did they know that I had left that engagement in the civil service to embark on, work in other parts of the vineyard. So in a nutshell, that's precisely what the antecedents are. And we're here to continue to beat them bad. We're here to continue to have the opponents cowering and quivering in their boots, because we know that this upcoming general elections, Natalie and viewers, is going to be one of the most consequential in the history of Jamaica. A lot is at stake. A lot is riding on these elections. We know that there's only one victor in politics. There's only one team that can come away with the ultimate prize in the politics. And when all is said and done, we in the Jamaica Labour Party intend to be the victors and to be the persons who returned for a third successive term as government.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that introduction and for telling us who Marlon, Senator now, Marlon Morgan is. So it sounds like you have been around for a long time. Some people may not know that because, and I'm going to just ask you, Marlon,
Yeah,
when we were saying, where is the communication arm of the JLP? That was about, I want to say 4 or so months ago.
yeah.
You weren't really out there on the forefront at that time. So let me just start by asking, where were you? You say you've been a part of Bruce Golding's administration. You
Mm-hmm.
were around with Andrew Holness, G2K. So you have been around.
Yeah.
So why didn't you assume this role much sooner? Because it sounds like you're very much
Well,
qualified. You study political science.
yeah.
You are a master at the English language. Where have you been?
Put it this way, I would imagine that from time to time, some of us have been in situations where we know the skill sets that we have, we know the capacity that we possess and what we may bring to the table. And sometimes you get to a point where you just say, enough is enough, and you get up and make a move. That
Oh,
really and truly is precisely what has happened in my case, because you'll recall in February of last year when we had the local government elections, though the JLP won based on how we have traditionally um, considered and defined victory in the local government polls, i.e., the political party that comes away with control of the majority of the municipal corporations. In the case of last February, it was the PNP's 7 to the JLP's 7 rather to the PNP's 5. Yes.
okay.
So the PNP essentially would have felt that they had good cause and much reason to celebrate because they surprised themselves, I would imagine. You'll recall some media houses called it wrongly that
Yeah.
the PNP had won, but it wasn't quite so, as the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, well, the EOJ rather, the Electoral Office of Jamaica, had to come and just clarify. Although to this very day, in rather concerning fashion, the PNP continues to remain adamant and bullish that they were the victors in the local government election. So the gist of it is that, having regard to our underperformance, and I would frankly call it that, because as I said, we are people who call it as we see it and we are honest with ourselves. Because if you're going to improve in anything in life, Natalie,
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to make improvements in any aspect of your life or in any endeavor, you must look at the lady in the mirror, look at the man in the mirror and say, all right, tell you what, I have
Mm-hmm.
this challenge, I have this deficit, and in order to change it, you have to at least begin with that honest introspection and becoming cognizant of the deficit. So the long and short of it is that last year, those people were up and about, pumping their chests and feeling high and so on. You'll recall that by the middle of last year too, at some point, we got the Integrity Commission report as it relates to its investigation into the Prime Minister's statutory declarations. The Integrity Commission report made a number of findings and a number of editorial comments that were situated in that report that were not necessarily borne out by the facts. It was a situation in which no finding of impropriety was made against the Prime Minister and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, by the middle of last year, I realized that, listen, we're coming closer to a certain big event. A lot is at stake. And based on my own institutional knowledge and memory of a lot of things, right, it would be
Mm-hmm.
better for me to leave the civil service and come back onto the field of play. In fact, I seen a colleague at the ministry that I was working at the time, because as you know, there's a certain degree of security and comfort that comes with the civil service. It is not like being,
Yeah.
in the cut and trust of the politics. And when I indicated to that senior executive at the ministry that, it is true, I'm going to be transitioning and going on to engagement in the political vineyard, they were like, asking me if I'm sure that I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, You know, people were viewing the PNP as being in the ascendancy. But to cut a long story short, we came back on the field of play. The Prime Minister, in his wisdom, had established what is called the Communications Task Force of the JLP, because prior to that, the JLP had a PR committee. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the Prime Minister determined that, listen, he wants to have focused attention on the issue of communications, because as you'd imagine, communications is a premium in politics. It is how you bring people into information. It is how you bring people into your confidence as a party and by extension as a government. And so he places particular premium on that. He recognized as Prime Minister and party leader that there were certain deficits, and it is to his credit that he had instituted this communications task force. And at some point, I think it may have been August or so of last year, I was asked to join the communications task force based on my own aptitude and my own willingness to come and make a contribution. And the rest, as they say, is history. We got onto the battlefield and just set about working right away in terms of pushing back hard and pushing back strongly against falsehoods and all kinds of, destructive narratives that were being peddled, not least among them being, of course, the narrative that the Prime Minister was illicitly enriching himself and all kinds of things. And just a few months after that thing about the illicit enrichment report, you had another report coming out in relation to a development up at Beverly Hills, which really and truly had nothing to do with the Prime Minister insofar as, building breaches and whatnot. So we have been back on the park in the past 6 or so months, and based on the feedback I've been getting from people out in society, both here in Jamaica and people in the diaspora, it is evident that we are messaging a bit better. I don't think that we are where we would want to be ideally. I'm a hard taskmaster by nature. I'm one who mark myself hard, and I mark my team hard as well. I'm like that by nature because the sky is the limit, as they say. And even if you score 10 goals in a match, you really have to consider that, hey, it could have been 12, could have been 15. So the idea is that I'm not suggesting on the platform this evening that as a communications outfit and as a communicator on behalf of the Jamaica Labour Party that we are where we would want to be. But I'm delighted that there are 4 key elements in politics, certain in elections, Natalie, and those 4 key elements are coming together in my view. One of them, of course, being your message. In politics, going into elections, your message is paramount, which is one of the things that our opponents are suffering with at present. They don't have a clearly defined and distilled message. Quite frankly, what they're doing, Natalie and viewers, is trading in the misery index, trying to exploit the misery index.
What do you call it? The misery index?
Yeah, the misery index, or in some, some observers will refer to it as pain points. So when I talk about disruptions in the water supply in your community, potholes on your roadways, when you call a government ministry or department or agency and the phone goes unanswered, these things are frustrating to members of the public. When you're at the bus stop, Natalie, and you have to wait for 40 minutes or an hour and a half for a JTC bus, all of these things cause you to be enraged as a person. You're a taxpayer in the country. You deserve optimal public services. As a government, we concur with that. We know that people deserve, when you call the police, you should have a police car on hand to be able to deploy to your community to come and address the issue, whether it's a domestic squabble over by your neighbor's residence, or somebody came into the community and broke into a house or whatever, right? So the idea is that message in the politics, there's a premium on it, and certain people, they are on the trading in the misery index, and whenever they open their mouths to speak, they essentially can only come with suggestions re taxes, because they don't know how to apply their mind, creativity, and gray matter to generating more revenues in the country, growing the economy, so much so that government is able to now in turn do more for its population, do more for the elderly, whether it is the institution of a social pension program for persons aged 75 and over, as the government is now doing, whether it is expanding the number of medical ailments and conditions that are now covered under the National Health Fund, whether it is removing the guarantor requirement for student loans, whether it is removing the tuition fee requirement for training, skills training and development programs and offerings at the Heart NSTA Trust. So all of these things are the services that people need. And so messaging is important in the politics. Another M, of course, is your mobilization of people. And mobilization as well begins with, who you recruit. It begins with who you bring to the table so that you can go into communities, know who your voters are, know where your votes are, and pull those votes out on election day. And as I've heard you say in several of your programs, Natalie, that it is very clear that there is a set of people in this country who are surrounding themselves with people who leave much to be desired. So, and that is something I want to commend to your viewers as well, because when you look on at a leader, when you consider Andrew Michael Holness, the man who recruited Favor Williams, recruited a Nigel Clark, recruited a Dana Morris Dixon, he has brought in certain talents to deepen the Jamaica Labour Party's bench and expand our offerings, certainly as it relates to capacity that can serve in the government to deliver more for the people of Jamaica. That is something that you have to place a premium on. When you look at other people, as I say, their business is their business, and we don't dwell on them too much. But the truth is that when you look at how they go about selecting candidates, it's essentially a system of just rewarding people who were supported of their Rise United movement, essentially. So we can just call it as it is. A man who is moving from Western Hanover. What's the basis on which you can credibly, Natalie, move from Western Hanover to Western Westmoreland to set up shop?
Well, I have never seen anything like that before with the numbers.
And of course, such man, the people run you out of Northwest St. Ann. Which part you born and grow, which part you come from. You are from Bamboo, you're a native of Bamboo. And you have to lift up, like when plane take off down an Armand Manley or JFK, go run, go seek refuge down at PJ's old stomping ground, Westmoreland Eastern. So it gives you a sense, you can just detect what a person is made of and what they're about by virtue of who you say, in and around them. And we saw how Joel and Silvera used to hold the umbrella over him head, and Joel and Silvera used to move around with him and so on. So you get a clear sense as to what a certain set of people are about. But alas, this evening is not so much about them. I was touching on the issue of mobilization a while ago. Then you have momentum. And I can delightfully say, Natalie, that since the start of calendar year 2025,
yes,
I heard Karen on with you last evening. Karen Cross said it last evening that those guys have not caught a break in this new year. They have not had a single good week. So from the Lawrence Rowe related debacle coming down, first of all, they came over into the new year with the Mayor Andrew Swaby debacle in terms of that building that he put up on Lyndhurst Road that did not seek or get the permit, the imprimatur of the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. So that's how they started the year. Then they also came into the year with the Lawrence Rowe issue. A key part in January as well, such man who flying mouth like when plane a take off. He was speaking to a group of farmers down in St. Elizabeth, talking about the institution and establishment of the Tourism Enhancement Fund. He spoke about the Universal Access Fund, and then he said, now is the time for us to add a little thing or put on a little thing. we know that you cannot be referring to existing taxes when you talk about put on a thing. Put on a thing must be speaking to new revenue measures, new taxes. And that same gentleman came back to Jamaica and said, no man, I wasn't speaking about new taxes. I was speaking about the existing suite of taxes. We want to institute this agricultural development fund. Now, the idea is this: if you are suggesting to do all you are suggesting to do in relation to agriculture, what new monies are you identifying so to do? Because as it is now, the current suite of import duties, the revenue generated from the current suite of import duties are going to fund the government's fiscal program, the budget of the country. And a significant degree of it goes into agriculture, which is why at present the government is able to build a cold storage facility at long last, because over many years we should have been doing these things and we have not. But we are now where we are, and it is good to know that this government is building out a facility like that, because when the farmers work hard, Natalie, and they take a risk, sometimes they borrow the money, sometimes they make a call to them family overseas and raise one $400, go buy some seeds down at the farm store, then buy some fertilizer, and them do them thing. You have to buy water, loads of water at $5,000 and $6,000 a load and all them thing there. So when the farmers work hard, it is unfair for them to have to lose their produce because there's a glut on the market, for example. So when you have a cold storage facility, that now provides an avenue for greater stabilization in the supply chain. So when Farmer Joe do him thing, and the man left full-time community in northwest Manchester or up in northeast Manchester, and he's able to bring his produce to that facility, he is guaranteed that yes, it has been taken by a person, a player in the distributive trade. He gets a fair price for his product, and this product will end up ultimately on the plate of someone. For example, myself or Karen Cross over there in West Central St. Andrew. See? So we're speaking now of the issue of momentum. And like I said, these guys have not had a good week since the start of the year. So it's one thing after another. And as we saw just last weekend, Natalie and viewers, a certain gentleman, the Tapanaris among us all, had a meltdown in Hartford, Connecticut, where he had to essentially, concede that, boy, this road is going to be a rocky and heavy one. In fact, I'm thinking it was you who made the point that it sounded like a concession it had the makings and the sounding of a concession speech following an election defeat. But alas, we're not getting ahead of ourselves. We are not getting complacent. We know what is required to win. We have been there before. We have done it before. And we know what victory looks and feels like, and what is required to come away with a win in general elections. And so we're sticking to our guns in that regard, keeping our powder dry, pressing flesh, putting in the hard work, and which is why I'm on a platform such as this to just touch base with viewers across the diaspora, across Jamaica, to let them know that, listen, when all is said and done, the people who are seeking to form government in the country, the PNP that is, they have no credible, coherent, and of course compelling plans to move the country forward. They want to get their hands on power for the purpose of probably bailing out a particular company which has proven to be a disaster. Get it?
No pun intended. No pun intended.
So we know that it's important to just remain focused, and momentum is key, because compared to last year, when we had more of a rocky road, I think the momentum has been with us. The polls suggest that much. We have had 2 poll results in recent weeks, Natalie, one of them being the poll. That particular poll sees the JLP being 6% percentage points ahead outside of their margin of error of 2.5%. In the case of the Don Anderson polls, we know that you take a Don Anderson poll with a grain of salt because we know that, and of course we suspect that there are little things that happen with that particular pollster. You would have seen Andrea Moore's husband at her funeral, yes, making a point about type 2 error and alleging that the polls are fake polls, the polls commissioned by a certain political party and used in making certain decisions in their internal constituency contests, that they are fake polls. And the idea is that while we're not impugning the gentleman's work, my own assessment is that those are poll findings that we take with a grain of salt. He has returned in terms of a voter intent outturn, which suggests that the PNP is 5 percentage points ahead. But quite interesting and curiously, the JLP has not moved in any meaningful way north. He just has us as having moved 0.5% up. And the fall off, as it were, from the PNP, he is essentially, his poll findings, the Don Anderson poll, that is essentially attributing the fall off that the PNP has incurred to the undecided bloc. But as you can imagine, as an election draw closer, more minds will get made up. Some people who are essentially on the fence, not clear in their mind as to whether they should vote, and if they decide to vote, which of the two major political parties they will be electing to vote for. Those people are, in play, because it is going to come down to which of the two teams have the more compelling message. And we believe, and we are delighted, yes, that no administration, we feel, in the history of Jamaica has been able to campaign on a record of achievement in the way this Andrew Holness-led Jamaica Labour Party administration is able to do. And it is to the credit of the team. It is to the credit of the people of Jamaica as well, because the people of Jamaica have had to sacrifice a lot. They have had to endure a lot. Public sector workers, for example, are people who have endured wage freezes, albeit by another administration. There are people who have had to endure $60 billion in new taxes between 2012 and 2016. But it's good that we are now at a point where the country has attained macroeconomic stability, which means that revenues are being generated to do more and deliver critical services to the public. That is why we're now able to fully outfit the Jamaica Constabulary Force, moving toward the 14,000 men and women at the disposal of the police commissioner that we need to fight the scourge of criminality and murders in particular in the country. So message, mobilization, mobilizing people, momentum, those things are key. And of course, the other big thing now, I'll allow you to take a guess at it. The general secretary, the embattled general secretary of a certain political party, made that point when he was advocating for a certain Tapanaris, when he said, you need a leader with
money.
That's right. So that's final
Oh my gosh, you're cracking me up.
Yeah, man. So the 4 M's: message, momentum, mobilization, and money. Because as you can appreciate, in political organization,
The four M's.
The 4 M's, yeah.
Okay,
in political organization, it requires the training of people. It requires it requires attaining and acquiring paraphernalia. You need shirts with people name and them face and them slogan. You need nutrition support for your volunteers. So when you take up people in hot sun to walk around communities to canvass, You have to be able to refresh them. You have to be able to fuel motor vehicles to get people enumerated or to bring out people on election day. So the financial resources are a key part of it. And as you will recall, there in the United States, there's the Obama model,
Yes.
where although he may not have had a lot of Tapanaris people at in his circles, the model he used was to impress upon people that their little bit will still go a far way. So
We the people.
each
We the people.
there you go. So if each well-thinking person, as Obama did in the case of the United States, appealing to persons who we would consider well-thinking Americans, to just chip in with their little bit. That's a similar kind of appeal that I would make on this platform, because you have people at different ends of the spectrum. You have the moneyed persons, and then you have those who are, just working class people who mean well though, and they have a preference, they have a choice, and they believe that, listen, based on what the government is doing, it is better for us to entrust them with a third consecutive term than to take a risk with these guys who we don't know whether they are fish or fowl. We don't know what they are truly about, and we suspect that they may really just be pursuing state power to come and replicate what they did in the 90s, where they benefited considerably from government policies that saw interest rates being high, the government dealing in financial securities, government paper essentially, and these lazy capitalists, because that's what they are, they didn't put money to work really. What they did was just invest in paper and sat on a beach and reaped the returns from a high interest rate regime. So we know that there are players in the financial sector. We know that as classical hypocrites, there are players in the distributive trade where imported agricultural food or agricultural commodities are concerned. So Peter Bunting and Mark Golding are the proprietors or principals. They are the investors in an entity called Rerum. And while they are bringing in agricultural commodities, including rice and all kinds of other commodities like sodas and sweet beverages that are really not even so good for people. Yeah. Their chief prize bull, the embattled general secretary of theirs, is about the place talking about the food import bill. So they are such hypocrites that these two gentlemen, the leader of the PNP and the co-leader of the PNP, right, are directly associated with a company that is importing food items into the country. And they have this puppy show one who has run from St. Ann to Westmoreland, banding about the place and decrying the food import bill, while his bosses, the people who pull his puppet strings, are players in the food importation sector. Now,
I haven't even thought about that.
Yeah, well, that's why we're here to present insights, to draw people's attention to things that we really believe they deserve to have their attention drawn to. Because what we can ill afford, Natalie, is a deception of our people, is a hoodwinking of our people, a tricking of the people, such that certain power gets into the wrong hands in this country. We have seen elsewhere around the world, some will argue that even at present, not too far from where we are here in Jamaica, a certain decision was made by a certain electorate in recent months, and the society is, essentially reeling from that. We don't get involved in the politics of other countries in that way,
right?
But you know that that's a perspective that some are, essentially presenting and drawing attention to. So we know the elements in the politics, and we're going to be pressing on in that vein, keeping the momentum. We're going to be ramping up the messaging, and particularly as that day and that critical juncture draws nearer, you will see even more heightened activity in that regard.
Okay. Well, I have a few questions for you, and then I'm going to let the audience come in and ask you some questions as
Sure.
well. The first question is, last night we did a program over here about the defeat, the loss of the information warfare with the disinformation. You may have seen all the things that were out here where us over here on this channel and others have had to come out and debunk so many. I mean, it was so busy out here with the disinformation and stuff. So, with that being said, do you feel at this time that the Jamaica Labour Party and yourself managed throw to throw these guys off their game when it comes to the um the information warfare, basically?
Well, speaking elsewhere, I made the point that we're operating in a digital era, not an
Yeah.
analog era. And in as much as I made that point, I
Mm,
will extend it to make the point that, listen, there are some things that are a bit outdated, outmoded,
mm,
and if you try to operate in a 21st century world with 17th century practices, trouble there.
mm,
What our opponents are finding increasingly is that their classical model of peddling falsehoods, banding about disinformation, going as far as you have detected, Natalie, in fabricating letters, writing letters to try and suggest or amplify discord within the ranks of the Jamaica Labour Party, it goes to show that they are steep in trading in those negatives, but in an era now where we have technology at our fingertips, people can fact check things for themselves, people can verify things for themselves, and people not frightened for people either. So
mm,
one of the things that PJ Patterson, for example, is fast coming to realize is that back in the early 90s and the mid 90s in particular, when him talk a talk and people just gobble it up like, gospel, he
mm,
doesn't realize that people don't really take no talk again. The truth of the matter is that when you say something, even in his case, as a former prime minister of the country, people are going to challenge your narrative, and you may expose yourself to people, having to call you out. As I heard one commentator on radio do this morning, right? In terms of imploring him to go and don his nightgown. So
mm,
the point to be made is that they do themselves, we feel, a disservice when they try to peddle falsehoods and trade in misinformation and disinformation, because the people are a bit more discerning. We know that we still have the hazards of disinformation in terms of clickbait, for example, in terms
mm.
of artificial intelligence and AI generated, malware. But the idea is that when persons who are able to mash down lies, like myself and others, come on, yes,
Mhm.
you need to, it's a clear case that falsehoods and propaganda will be dead on arrival.
Oh, that's what's been happening the past 3 months. And hence the admission of the opposition leader that your communication arm in the JLP is so, quote, strong.
Yeah.
It's been a consistent. I have to say that I mean, our subscribers over here can tell you that I don't really, I don't really put people on pedestal over here unless they deserve it, of course. And that's not something that we really do over here because we're people who hold folks accountable.
That's
But
right. As you should, as you should.
yes, but in such a short time, I don't know if you can give the people an exact duration of how long you have been speaking,
So
you
it's
know.
since September of last year, since September. So
Okay.
and yeah, so it almost coincided with when that report from the Integrity Commission came out. I remember calling into a radio station in early September of last year,
Yes.
and I used a profound term because that particular program host was familiar with me from a previous dispensation and went on to make the point that, hey, it's been a while. Good to hear you and so on. And I expressed and conveyed to that program host that, well, it's game time. Those were the exact words I used. And it
Mm,
has proven to be precisely that because when you got to September of 2024, you
mm-hmm,
know that based on when elections are constitutionally due, Natalie, you
mm-hmm,
are now within a year of the holding of elections, at least by virtue of its constitutional due date. So what that means is that the temperature is gonna get, the kitchen is gonna get a bit hot. Uh,
mm-hmm.
and as you know, politics is not for the faint of heart.
Right.
So people like Mark Golding who like to retreat and ball and thing, he has perhaps some more of that to do in the weeks and months ahead. Because if him think him say anything yet, yes, if him think him say anything, I would telegraph to him and the team that the engine is just being revved up, the engine is just being warmed up, and we'll be getting to full throttle in the weeks ahead. So they can pick sense out of nonsense where that is concerned.
Well, he waved the white flag in Connecticut, so I don't know if he. Oh God,
And,
that's just to
and,
put it mildly.
and I want to just apprise your listeners of something. Based on the recent Don Anderson polls, based on the Blue Dot polls, the findings of the respective polls, it is clear that, to use a word that you often use, Natalie, them not getting attraction.
Oh
Zin?
jeez.
So now, within that context, you will find them becoming increasingly desperate. It's like desperation of a turn up.
Mm-mm.
No, I am very clear in my mind that they have not necessarily been articulating or presenting any plans that are compelling, well thought out, and workable or bankable. See?
Mm.
What you're going to be having in the days, weeks, and months to come is an avalanche of promises and all kind of things. You're going to have an avalanche of that. And the people of Jamaica are being implored to be focused, be discerning. There are Anybody can get up and make a promise. Talk is cheap, as they would say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to look at
True.
track record of performance, a track record of actually getting things done. And when you think about it, those persons who are now struggling in terms of their financial institution business that they operate,
Mm-hmm.
it gives you a clear sense that minus a political network that they benefited from when they operated DB&G throughout the 90s and their
Mm-hmm.
proximity to the then finance minister Omar Davies and all of those government papers that they were able to rake in.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really any wizards. They are not governance wizards, and they are certainly not business and enterprise gurus or winners either. If you think about it, we have had no national security minister in the history of this country, save and except one, who literally bawled, yes, cried the living in water, asking
Mm-hmm.
for divine intervention, basically throwing in the towel, and giving criminals a sense that they have won. When the country's national security minister, him same one, yes, when the country's national security minister gets to a point where he says he is convinced that despite that, notwithstanding the best efforts of the security forces,
Mm.
meaningful headway is being made in the fight against crime, you are telegraphing something very horrible, yes,
Mm,
to
actually.
your countrymen looking on. When your national security minister goes to a villa in Portland and becomes the victim of a robbery, whether it was a hold up and rob or they robbed in an opportunistic way when him gone in a villa or whatever, that's his business. Yes, you get the clear sense that something was amiss. So it is good now that from the national security spokesperson standpoint that Bunting has been rendered redundant because crime is coming down, and we know that from time to time you may have situations where you have an upturn, an upswing, and then it comes back down and so on. But we, as well-thinking Jamaicans and persons who mean our country well, must continue to be supportive of the police in the lawful and professional discharge of their responsibilities. Because I know that there are some persons who are not comfortable with sustained reductions in murders, because their own assessment is that it may cause people to endorse the government, endorse what the government is doing in reaping results on the crime management front, and what that may mean for them and their political fortunes is something negative. So invariably, they may well be prepared and keen on swimming through the blood of their Jamaican brothers and sisters if it means that swimming through that blood lands them and takes them to Jamaica House. And as I've said elsewhere, it cannot work like that. It cannot go so, and it will not go so. The
Well,
police commissioner should be unrelenting as he is, and should continue to lead the men and women under his command in a fierce and concerted fight against the scourge of murders in this country.
well, that drives me to the next question, because I see that the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and Grenadines, Mr. Ralph Gonzalez, is in Jamaica.
It's pronounced Gonzalez, yes, or Ralph Gonzalez.
Yes, Ralph Gonzalez, and I heard an audio of something that he may have said a while ago. I don't know when it was said, but he's of the opinion. I don't know if this is a St. Vincent politics thing or whatsoever, but he suggests that opposition leaders and oppositions, where crime is concerned, they don't want to see crime going down. And he basically said some things that I see the opposition of Jamaica doing right now. For example, the crime is going down and they are on the police, the constitutional reform that they are obstructing. And these are the very same things that Mr. Ralph said in a previous address to his people.
Countrymen in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, first of all, he who feels it knows it. He who lives it knows it. And Prime Minister Gonzalez from St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been head of government in that country for a number of years. Yes?
24 years.
Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has seen a lot. He has been in the belly of this thing for quite some time. And essentially, what he's charging is that incumbents, governments, should not be deluded by persons who may want to give the appearance of collaboration and cooperation and well-thinking disposition. When in fact, to the extent that the politics is competitive by nature and your opponent is just really seeking to depose you or to dislodge you, constitutionally, of course, as Prime Minister Gonzalez said, it is a case where he is mistrusting and he is asserting that he is not deluded by any overture, because he is convinced, Ralph Gonzalez that is, and to a large extent I concur with his observation that, listen, opposition players, opposition politicians don't necessarily want to see an incumbent government succeed in crime management. I know that when we were in opposition, that was not the case, because I know what we were banking on. Because, and I can speak to this from a personal standpoint because I was there. When Mrs. Simpson Miller's administration was in office, The thrust and the epicenter of our focus was the economy.
Yes.
We were drawing attention to austerity and the fact that, yes, while we have a challenging IMF program to navigate, there are things that that the Prime Minister and the administration can do in a concerted, conscientious, and creative way
Mm-hmm.
to ease the burden on the people. Just think about it for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
The PNP was in office. The election was February of 2016. We made a manifesto commitment in the January, February of 2016 regarding raising the income tax threshold. When we took office in March 2016, by the April 2016, when the budget was presented, we were able to deliver what we had promised. What that says to everybody is that the same thing with the new set of man them, Andrew Wallace and Fame crew them,
Mm-hmm.
were able to come in come to April 2016 could have been done by you, because how you ended it, you never do it. But them a man come and were able to do it by April 2016 and the country never popped down. So the PNP, they are concerned, they want to trade in, what is happening on the murder outturn front.
Mm-hmm.
While we, when we were in opposition, we decried murders, we provided prescriptions or alternatives, we provided suggestions as it
Mm-hmm.
relates to reducing murders. A lot of them are the things that we have since gone on to pursue and implement as government. Yes. But the key thing for us back then was the economy. And we were unapologetic about it now, and we remain unapologetic about it to this very day, because we know that to do the things that need to be done as a country, it takes the resources, the revenues from taxes in particular, to be able to more adequately respond to the need across some communities for piped water, the
Mm-hmm.
need for increased social services, the need for more diagnostic equipment in our hospitals, the need for more hospital spaces, which is why the government at present is responding to the need for hospital spaces. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say that we are where we would want to be, because I too am frustrated with and disheartened by the fact that people have to wait lengthy periods in some instances for a hospital bed to become available. And I don't play games with these kinds of issues, Natalie, because the truth is, we have family members and we ourselves may be in a position where we have to attend upon a hospital to access the service. Because at the end of the day, we are not Tapanaris and
Yeah.
we are not able to fly our family members to Jackson Memorial, for example. Yes? So
Mm-hmm.
we know that ideally we should have public services in the country at levels in terms of the quality of the service delivery that
Mm-hmm.
we ourselves can use. In other words, Natalie, if you can't eat the food that you prepare, it really shouldn't be safe and recommended for somebody else to eat it. So
True.
if you are in a country and you yourself can't see it fit to go to a public hospital or to access any, you can think of any public service and access the service yourself, which is why in the UK you have MPs who travel the tube. You have MPs in the UK who travel via the public transportation system. So
Mm.
ideally, that is how it should be, because the quality of the services and the quality of how the country is being run should be at a level where you yourself can
Would
feel
use it. True.
using
And
it.
in
Is it okay?
fairness, to while the issue of the healthcare system in Jamaica, where we're coming from, the journey
Yeah.
since independence, right? With our healthcare system. And yes, there's definitely room for improvement. But let
Mhm.
me tell you, sometimes I hear people talk about the healthcare system in Jamaica and about the wait time. And as a healthcare professional in the United States, I can tell you, wait time is not just a Jamaica thing. It is everywhere.
Well,
So
yes.
let's just get people to understand that. But we are all for, the work that is being done and should continue to improve the quality of healthcare in Jamaica.
And I give another example because public education is one of those, contentious issues. In some instances, it's a vexing issue.
Yeah.
And just this past Friday, there was the Ministry of Education presented at the Standing Finance Committee of the Parliament. And I was particularly heartened to hear the education minister indicate that there are some 50 odd schools essentially which
Mm-hmm.
are considered, among the most vulnerable in terms of being underperforming schools. And those schools are being earmarked or identified for targeted and special intervention, not least in relation to their nutrition support. So getting, breakfast to these kids in addition to the lunch support that they get. And importantly, building up their laboratories
Yeah.
so that the children of working class and ordinary Jamaicans who may go to a school, you name it, whether it's Glengough or Buff Bay High, these kids, and I'm just calling some schools arbitrarily, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
these children who go to these schools should have the same, or if not, a good and reasonable opportunity at being all they can be in life. So the fact that you went to Greater Portmore High, or the fact that you went to Mayday High, or indeed Godfrey Stewart,
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't put you automatically at a disadvantage relative to your cousin who went to Rossi's, or a friend of yours who is a student at Hampton School. So the idea is that if you are able to invest more in public education as is being done, and I accept that there is considerably greater lifting that needs to happen to get our schools up to the standards that we would consider to be, um, you know, desirable and
Mm-hmm.
high quality. But what it will take for us to get there ultimately is what is being done now, which is good management of the economy, good management of the country's affairs, so that you can generate the revenues necessary to get more of our schools, or all schools, up to standard. Because like I said before, remember what the ultimate test is. If you are on a business place and you wouldn't go to your own restaurant to sit down and eat, it sure you say, boy, you're off the
You're
mark.
right.
You're off the mark, because
Mm-hmm.
if you can't feel comfortable utilizing the service that you are presiding over, or the goods that you are presiding over, it means that you really shouldn't be delivering that in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. All right. No, I don't know if you heard, I think it was Sunday, yesterday, yeah,
Hmm.
where the leader of some third party that I've never heard of came out and said that he would support the PNP under a certain condition. He
Hmm.
said that he had some concerns about the constitutional reform. When I looked at his profile, it said that he was Harvard trained in finance. So
Hmm.
I thought that coming in to say that he would endorse the PNP, he would say something about Jamaica's economy, maybe, rather
Yeah.
than the constitutional reform. Well, if he didn't say anything about the economy, I take it the economy is doing okay. But let
Well,
me draw you to this poll here.
hmm. Hmm.
Um, a poll person, these polls, every day is a new poll, Marlon, me no know. Me frustrated, confused sometimes. But
Hmm.
a gentleman came out and said that, well, they're referring to him as a political analyst. He weighs in as election battle heats up. And he said that he believes that the PNP would win the next election. Have you seen the article? And if so, what do you have to say about it?
So first of all, this gentleman, Professor Charles, I think he's our Dr. Charles. I think
Uh-huh.
Dr. Charles. I saw him last week on Andre Stevens' program.
Okay.
So watch me now. This guy, among just like many others, would essentially seek to pass himself off as, just a sober and objective commentator. But I have good reason to believe that this gentleman, just like the guy pictured beside him, Gordon, what's the other one name? That younger looking one.
I can't really see the name.
Yeah. But
Uh-huh.
that other one, the younger gentleman beside him, is a known PNP sympathizer. So this
Oh,
gentleman, Dr. Charles, is taking all kinds of issues. He is raising issues with the questions asked in polls and all kinds of things. I
oh,
mean,
okay.
as he is inclined to do, or as he has a right to do, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that there are persons like him who I believe are driven by a particular partisan agenda and
Okay.
interest. But like I said, this is just a view of mine.
Okay.
Because I'm seized of certain things that I will not necessarily telegraph um, on a public platform, but
Mm-hmm.
these people will seek to pass themselves off as we're calling now objective and
Independent.
sober and
Oh,
independent commentators. When in truth
oh,
and in fact, they're just among the people who are coming out swinging in a desperate way to help our Tapanaris friend, our British expat, Mark Golding, secure state power in this country.
okay. May I
So,
have two more questions for you because the people that might call on the phone they want to talk to you. So I'm gonna get
yeah,
out of
man,
the way
sure.
here shortly. The first thing is, do you believe that Mark Golding should show the Jamaican people that he actually renounced his UK citizenship? And in my opinion, I think he should show his birth certificate
I,
because
yeah,
there's been so many falsehoods or reasons for me to be suspicious about his actual place of birth and is citizenship. So do you think that's an overreach or you think it's inappropriate or how do you feel about that?
let me tell you in very clear terms. Transparency and openness dictates it, requires it. It cannot be that you are casting yourself or seeking to pass yourself off as being for integrity, for transparency, for accountability. And you are in this habit of hiding behind. So, Mark Golding's statutory declarations, as we know,
Mm,
is as they are because his wealth is really and truly ensconced in a trust. So,
mm,
him think him slicker than the rest of we and we are big head bud.
mm.
His largesse, his wealth, is tucked away nicely in a trust fund. So up to the very yard that when we call it foreign than the place name,
Yes, I think
some
so.
must say foreign than just. So the property him liver in Jacksonville, essentially him don't own it. It belongs to his kids. So he has used clever
Mm.
estate management
Loopholes.
and loopholes, as yes,
Mm,
that's an excellent word. Loopholes to sidestep. Now, to my mind, Mark Golding went to great lengths to obfuscate and mislead as to his citizenship status. You'll recall when he and his dear wife were traveling they were doing an overseas trip. I think it may have been to the UK. He flashed a Jamaican passport, right?
mm-hmm.
Essentially, he was trying to quell and lay to rest questions as to his, nationality and his
Mm,
status, knowing full well, because remember, Natalie, this is the same gentleman when he caused the PNP members on the Constitutional Reform Committee or Commission, I think it is, yeah, to not sign the report. He indicated that Jamaica should determine what it is doing because we can't be, neither fish nor fowl. We must leave the king's yard. We can't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Only to find a few weeks later, Natalie, that hypocrite had 1 foot in Jamaica and 1 foot in Britain in the King's Yard because he had his British passport tucked away in his back pocket, while at the same time had a Jamaican passport tucked away in the other back pocket. And the truth of the matter is that he sought to obfuscate, because there's a video with Mark Golding saying he had he was saying words to the effect that he had a British passport as a child. You see, the as a child utterance, it was deliberate. He was seeking to suggest to people that
That
his
he didn't
British
renew it.
affiliation was of long vintage, was of, yesteryears, long ago, when in truth and in fact it is not so, because the gentleman, up to when the matter came to light, was the holder of a valid British passport. And quite frankly, if the situation never blew up, as we know, he would have gone on to renew it late last year when it expired. And the truth of the matter is that we need evidence of his renunciation of his British status, and we need evidence of his birth papers, we'll say Jamaican age paper. So we need to see his birth certificate, because he talks a lot of talk, but what we know with this man is that him kind of very trickify.
So Marlon, what would you say to people or should I say members of the PNP who would say to you that, okay, the leader never shown a birth paper, no citizenship paper until the Prime Minister do a statutory declaration, because that has been a talking point for members of the PNP. Going into the election, what if the Prime Minister doesn't get his statutory straightened out?
Well, excellent question, Natalie.
Yes.
So just to be clear, the Integrity Commission did a report. They made certain findings, and among other things, they indicate that they want FID and TAJ to do X, Y, and Z because they're not in a position to certify. The truth of the matter is that I am one of those observers who believe that the Integrity Commission has erred. The Integrity Commission has acted ultra vires, because in circumstances where it undertook a detailed and painstaking investigation, it took several years, and it also included, Natalie, the work of an independent international forensic accounting examiner. When that kind of technical person, expert, can comb through your personal finances and made no finding of impropriety, no finding of wrongdoing, certainly no finding of illicit enrichment, that has to be seen as instructive. The question is, how many of them in the PNP could have an independent international forensic accounting examiner comb through their affairs and no adverse finding is made? Now, just to be very clear, the IC ought to have certified the Prime Minister's declarations in circumstances where they undertook an investigation and was not able to recommend, or not recommend, was not able to establish any finding of impropriety or illicit enrichment on the part of the Prime Minister. Kevin Stevens, having done his investigation, and he is, of course, the Director of Investigation at the IC, the Integrity Commission, he ought to have passed the matter on. So if he wanted to present something, he should have made a recommendation to the Director of Corruption Prosecution, Mrs. Prince Kamika, at the Integrity Commission, or he ought to have indicated that, listen, I have not found any, or I have not been able to establish any finding of impropriety or irregularity or illicit enrichment, and therefore I'm certifying. That's what ought to have happened. He either certifies or passes the thing on with a recommendation for prosecution to the Director of Corruption Prosecution. But he didn't do that because he knew, or he surmised, that Mrs. Prince Kamika would not have been able to uphold any recommendation of his for prosecutorial action in relation to illicit enrichment. And he didn't act off his own volition in terms of signing, because we surmised he wanted to leave and keep the Prime Minister hanging and in a place where he's basically in abeyance on this matter. So much so that the parliamentary opposition, Mark Golding and his band of merry men, who continue to harp on the Prime Minister's statutory declarations not being certified, while at the same time we hear his own General Secretary, his embattled General Secretary, as Karen said, the lady said, Leighton, right?
Leave.
Him saying
Lord
that
Jesus.
he is heard in his own voice on tape in conversation that we have noted, banded about across social media, indicating the basis on which the KCMC dispatch money to PNP caretakers, which it has no good reason to do, because a caretaker is not a constitutionally recognized office holder. Nobody elected a caretaker. People elect MPs and they elect councillors. Lawrence Rowe was not an MP, and of course the people in the Denham Town division and up in the Chancery Hall division for the PNP are not elected officials. So there would have been no basis for any funds to have been channeled to them from any KCMC. So Mark Golding has not acted against Dayton Campbell, nor has he acted against Mayor Andrew Swaby, and he wants to come and profess that he is somehow a paragon of virtue, or he's serious about issues of integrity. And we're pointing out to the people of Jamaica, don't take him seriously. You must listen to a person's words. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, your actions speak so loudly, I cannot hear what you say. I'll repeat for the benefit of your viewers. Ralph Waldo Emerson is once quoted to have said, your actions speak so loudly, I cannot hear what you say. So for people like Mark Golding, do not place a premium on what they say. Place a premium on what they do. Because some people will talk the talk, but they will never walk the walk. And that is what people should be, particularly mindful of in this country. Mark Golding, as does his PNP, albeit the Rise United fraction of the PNP, they present the hand of Esau, but they speak with the voice of Jacob. And people will be able to detect that because it's a little sleight of hand that they're trying. Remember in the Bible, when Jacob caused, for an animal thing on his hand to give his father impression, essentially, Isaac, that this was indeed Esau because he was trying to attain Esau's birthright. Yes? Sends the hand of Esau, but speaks with the voice of Jacob.
All right.
It's a lot like that. So
Well, final question, and then I'm going to open up the phone line. I could ask you a million more, but we don't have time.
On subsequent occasions, we can get into
Yeah.
things. Yeah, man.
Tell the people, you just got sworn into the Senate. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. How are you liking this whole senator thing so far?
So being a legislator in a country is a high calling. It's an honor to be among the group of persons in your country who are lawmakers. It's not a light thing. And so in circumstances where you see other people horse trading and, suggesting money in exchange for Senate seat, this is not a Mickey Mouse business or a joke thing.
Right.
The Senate is essentially the review chamber. It is referred to as the cerebral chamber, because you are expecting people with the requisite aptitude, the requisite expertise, the requisite skill sets and acumen to go there, sift through pieces of legislation that come up for debate and consideration with a fine-tooth comb, and of course, make decisions in the best interest of the country. Because when that oath was taken and subscribed, right? I affirm that oath, as does other senators, and the MPs do so in the lower house as well. That oath does not speak naturally to PNP or JLP. It speaks to the Constitution of Jamaica and the laws of Jamaica, and it's very, very serious business. So for me, I have long aspired to serve in this capacity. I don't just do it out of a sense of personal elevation and aggrandizement. I do it because I know I have sufficiently prepared myself for this. I know that based on my experience in the professional sphere and my own interests and passions as a person, I know what I'm going to bring to, and I know what I bring to that space. And so it's a distinct honor for me.
Mm-hmm.
I know that based on my own aspirations, the sky is the limit. I
Mm-hmm.
intend at some point to serve in the lower house, but those things will come in the period that lies before us, God willing. We take things in stride, one day at a time, as they say, and we just remain in humble service to the people of Jamaica. As it is right now, we are in the business of contributing to debates, and I look forward as well to one that will come up soon, which is following the budget debate in the lower house. The Senate will debate what is called the appropriation bill.
Okay.
It is almost like a mini budget debate in the Senate. So I will be beating them bad as well.
We'll be watching. We'll be watching.
Because some
Well,
people only know if we come with taxes, and we are the people of no new taxes. Whether hackney carriage or road taxi, no new taxes.
oh, that's a big thing, 9 years, no new tax.
Yep.
All right. Well, the phone line is open now. The people that might call on the phones. I'm going to start taking some calls. Guys, when you call, please be a little mindful about the time. That way the senator can answer your questions and your fellow subscribers can come in and ask questions after you. Hello, good night. Oops, sorry, I missed that one. Hello, good night. Can you please turn down the background?
I just did.
Thank you. Good night. Welcome to the program. What question do you have for the senator?
Good night.
Good night.
All right. I've been following politics for years. And I've been listening to Marlon for years.
Okay.
You understand? One of the best. He was with Matthew Samuda and Nestor Morgan. But Marlon, quick question for you.
Even color.
And even with what you call him, OP or OB?
Yeah, Canada Brand.
I think you had O'Brien on the back burner on 93 because I think you took his slot because you are doing a fantastic job. But my real question is Warren Newby gonna get that seat?
Good, excellent question. So it's good when you have persons who are eligible to serve the people expressing an interest. It speaks to a level caller of interest in the party and interest in coming on board and making yourself available to serve as a member of parliament. So there are three persons who are serious aspirants in the Clarendon Northwestern seat. Warren Newby, Corey Dunkley, and this other educator, the educator from the United States. It is ultimately as I understand it now, Carla, it's ultimately the delegates, the persons who will be voting, the worker corps basically, who will be attending upon a selection conference. I suspect that may be coming up this Sunday, who will make that decision. Warren is someone who essentially exposed me to G2K, having invited me at one point to attend the executive. So we go way back. He means well. He's a good youth. I don't know much about Corey Dunkley, but I wish all the aspirants all the best. But I know that Warren will make a formidable candidate if he emerges ultimately as the winner.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, you will.
Thank you for your question.
Just about Civ Right too. Is Civ Right going to get the one over Carl Samuda?
So I know that there has been an expression of interest. The last I know on that matter is that Carl Samuda is said to have had a rethink in terms of going back. So it doesn't appear, Carla, as though there will be a passing of the baton just now or changing of the guard. it seems as though Carl Samoda is going to go back and seek another term of office as Member of Parliament in St. Andrew North Central.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank you
caller.
very much, and thank you. I'm a silent listener.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
man. All the best. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
All right, bye.
Yeah, draw out your silent. Listen to them tonight, Marlon.
Well, I mean,
Hello,
what
good night. Yes. See, can you please turn down the background loud? Oh, this TV man. TV man. Quick and fast with your question. Quick and fast with your question, so that yes.
I hear they were talking about they're going to sue the government. I know that can't happen.
Sue the government for what?
And I'm taking the government to court.
About what?
About Portmore.
Oh.
Say they don't want it to be a parish. And I'm saying, is it where the border run? Is it through a PMP constituency? Why they're worried? Is it if they don't give the people, if they don't work for the people, how could they expect for it? Is it border make a difference? That is one of the question I want to ask. Is it border make a where it run? The area in the constituency there. Why the people keep saying, I don't hear them saying anything about the people. Like, they're talking about just border and election and voting.
Excellent question, caller. So the issue with Portmore as a parish, where the PNP is concerned, is that political expediency is uppermost in their mind. What the PNP has done is that they are making a contemplation that Portmore becoming a 15 parish, in their view, is going to be politically disadvantageous to them. And that's what the issue is. Now, just to be clear, there's a schedule to our constitution that essentially prohibits constituency boundaries, the boundaries of any constituency, from essentially straddling different parishes. Yes? So that is not permitted. Now, the government is establishing through Parliament, as it is, able to do in terms of a prerogative, the government is establishing a parish. When that is done and dusted, the ECJ will now go and make a determination as to electoral boundaries. But the short issue, the brief issue with Portmore, is that Portmore becoming Jamaica's 15th parish will be much more advantageous to Portmore than any negative that anybody could suggest in relation to Portmore. So just to be very clear, the people of Portmore themselves have long held an aspiration to be a parish. The arguments being advanced that there's no hospital, as the public has since seen, there are lands at Bernard Lodge that have now been earmarked for the construction of a hospital there in Portmore. And all the other amenities, including a parish court, because at present they have a petty session court in Greater Portmore. A parish court will be built out, and all the other amenities, as I said before.
Okay. Thank you, TV.
Next quick question.
Lord TV, man, you'll kill you tonight.
It's like you're in the lawmaking thing now. You're in the area where the law made. Can the law mean that anybody that's in power, once the government is doing good and uphailing the law the way that it's supposed to be, they work with that government with the law to curtail crime? Because for the opposition, no matter what the government do to curtail crime, they hope my door and say, run through here.
That's an excellent question. Excellent question, because on the democratic side, in terms of our practice as a democracy, right? When you have elections, the will of the people is what determines who forms government, and therefore the government should be seen as having the blessing of the people to move in a particular direction. However, the challenge to that is that although the government, which is the majority side in the parliament, has a mandate from the people and has the imprimatur of the people, the electorate, that is, the people who voted and saw them becoming government, in terms of policies that they may come with, the parliament still has a role to play. Each person in parliament still has their own discretion and faculties to bring to bear on considering laws, which is why there's no JLP or PNP recognized in the Constitution. When you come to Parliament, the members, as I was explaining in a previous response, they subscribe an oath or affirm an oath that essentially, yes, sees them committing to the Constitution of Jamaica and, of course, the laws of Jamaica. So, though the government of the day has gotten the blessing of the people to do something, it is still subject to the approval, as it were, of the parliament. Because remember, what we have here in Jamaica is a representative political system. Our Westminster system is representative. So each MP who is there is to be seen as somebody being there for Eastern Westmoreland, Daniel Lawrence, that is, because the people of East Westmoreland sent him there. So he's the representative. So the people decide when elections are held, but when the people sit in parliament as MPs, for example, they are still to be seen as extensions of the people. So whether it is the people of East Rural St. Andrew, the people of Anne-Marie Vazes, Portland Eastern, when they sit in parliament, it's still the people technically who are active.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for your response.
Tell the Prime Minister what to do for we, sir.
Yes. All right, we do.
All right. Let me get Managad. Couple more calls, Mr. Senator Morgan, because I know you want to go now or go soon. Managad, good night. Good night.
Senator Morgan, good night. I'm looking at your face.
Good night, caller. Greetings, my brother.
Yes, congratulations for your post of senatorship, and Sister Natalie and the whole crew has been calling for the Prime Minister to put you up here. The next person who wants us to go that direction is Benisha, right? Yes, however, I have two things to ask. One, a team of us, God has been doing the great work, as I noticed that you've been following, and I think I know the person who I'm speaking to, just that you don't know. You know Elvis James?
Yes.
Good, that's my relative. So tell the Prime Minister Elvis James I'm man of God, and we are praying for all of them.
All right, good. Elvis is a good patriotic Jamaican. Good youth.
Yes, man. Now, the team went on a ride out by Westmoreland, as you hear, Karen Cross and 411 and Liz, and we all backed them and stuff. They brought back a report, and I hope to God una listen to the report with Chapnal Raj, Jamaica.
I heard it. Thanks for raising that call.
No, sir. Take it back to the people up there for them to do whatever it is, do the corrective measures, to bring out what is on the ground and to point it out. Please, we want to make sure that whatever team put in place is doing the work there. There are some people that we don't want to see in Parliament. We don't want no deportation, we don't want no listener, we don't want no Ian. We don't want them in Parliament because we have seen what they're made of. We
certainly don't want any rooster.
Man of God.
Yes.
What is your question to the senator?
The question is that are they taking note of the information that has been given by Karen Cross and 411 on the ground on that report that they brought back in, because that was sent right across the world.
So for the benefit of the listeners, the viewers, Natalie.
Note of the report, good or bad or ugly.
All right.
For the benefit of the viewers, what Karen and the team gleaned from their trek out into certain constituencies, they would have gone to Manchester Southern, St. James Southern, and of course Westmoreland Eastern. And in the case of Westmoreland Eastern, where the incumbent MP is Daniel Lawrence, one of the things Karen reported is that a common complaint on the part of the people of Eastern Westmoreland is that while Mr. Danny is a nice guy and one of them, he hails from among them, humble guy, means well, when they have put issues having to do with road infrastructure to them, Danny has been in the business of essentially just telling them that, boy, this is a councillor road, basically a parish council road. And it's something that we have impressed upon elected officials. The truth is that, sadly, we do not have a single road authority here in Jamaica at present. We are working to get to that point. The Prime Minister said as much some months ago when he was addressing road-related issues at a post-cabinet press briefing. But the people of Jamaica, people like Dan Lawrence have to understand, don't see roads in terms of NWA road and MP road, different from council road.
Exactly.
So if a constituent come up to you and is raising concerns and registering their disgruntlement regarding a stretch of road, it is for you to collaborate with the councillor, impress upon the councillor, and at a minimum, let the constituent know that you will be bringing the matter to the attention of the councillor, and you'll be in the parish council's back. Because separate and apart from the councillor, the MP can seek to impress upon the parish council to do something, because his or her constituents are complaining about this. But to come across as just telling the constituents, say, well, I know my problem that it is the council who must fix the road, that does not register well with constituents, and our MPs should know them. Look at this in there. You see what I did? People travel upon a road, and as far as we know, road are road. Whether a community road, scheme road, or whatever, you want a good road for drive pan, and that. So I fully understand the point. And I'm thanking Karen and the team for bringing that perspective to the fore, because those little things, if you come off as unresponsible as an MP, that can turn off people.
For the team, we would love to send her back out, and that they can utilize that information even before the election, and bring some more info. Because I am not well, but I enjoy every bit of it, and I'm telling you that. And I've done my part, what I can, and I'm going to also call.
Listen, that was a 3-hour. That was a 3-hour plus program, and I listened to the program from start to finish. She started with the Socrates issue, and then she came all the way back through Rooster and Leighton, and right back. Just know how instructive I found the program to have taken in excess of 3 hours of her live, Karen Cross's live of last week, Tuesday, that is.
Yes. One Jamaica. Man, I got thank you. Yeah. Yes, love you. Take care. Yeah, man.
Patrick Samuels is making a point in the comments. Greetings, Patrick. Thanks for the comment. So yes, he's correct, right? The councillors who Danny Lawrence has to work with for the most part are PNP councillors. And that's why I'm saying you have, at a minimum, you have to telegraph to the constituent that you have made or brought the issue to the attention of the councillor. But if the councillor is being recalcitrant or uncooperative, you have to basically, go to the municipal corporation and make representation. Though it is that the councillor ideally should be the person doing that, because at the end of the day, you have to be prepared to do things that may even be considered unorthodox in service to the people, because when people are frustrated, they're not interested in the semantics and who coulda, shoulda, woulda, but never did. They are interested in getting the carpet that they want for drive pan available to them for drive pan. Simple as that. If man want water, man want water. Them a business about the hoops that you have to jump through to bring the water. You have to be indicating to them that you are being responsive as an elected representative. So that's my own commendations to Danny and whomever else, quite frankly.
So Marlon, let me ask you, because I'm also getting some text messages from our subscribers. Since the Prime Minister came into government in 2016, this is a very good question. Give us a percent of how many roads across Jamaica you would say that the government paved, to date. 20%, 50%, what would you say?
I'm not on top of that brief, to be honest, so I wouldn't be able to give an indication or even a percentage as to, but what I do know is that there are some key corridors in relation to which considerable investments have been made. As you can appreciate, that corridor which connects Harborview through St. Thomas over to Port Antonio in the northeast of the island is a critical bit of investment. Now, the Montego Bay Perimeter Road, as you know, also we also moved from Maypen, that east-west highway, the PJ Patterson Highway, from Maypen to Williamsfield.
Big one.
That's a key corridor as well. And also during the life of this government, you have had the Montego Bay Perimeter Road, which is the Montego Bay bypass. Now, from time to time, roads are either patched or entirely resurfaced. We're happy that at present we have the SPAR program, which sees an unprecedented quantum of funds being dedicated to addressing this vexing issue. Because believe you me, all of us travel the roads, and we know that there's nothing more frustrating than when you have to be navigating a stretch of roadway that is in a state of disrepair. It causes, unease and discomfort for you as a member of the motoring public. It takes more time. You're dropping pothole and, put your car in disrepair. It costs you at the parts shop, the auto parts shop. All of these things are inconvenient. And so everybody has the same interest. And that is why we are delighted that a key feature of Spark today is that it aims, to fix some community roads which have been neglected. So remember, you may drive on a good stretch of road, which is the main road when you're going home from work, for example. But for many people, what they find is that when them come off of the main road, as we would say in Jamaica, off of the main, and you up on your community roads now, the little off roads where you have to take for your yard, those roads are in a state of disrepair, right? So I can understand what people are struggling with, because I am residing in a constituency, Denise Daly's constituency, and the road that leads into my community has, from I've been here, been in a state of disrepair. And I don't know that it is on the Spark program, but I'm hoping that as the program is built out over time, and then you have other iterations of the Spark program coming on, that it will be a bit better.
Okay. Let me take this final call, Senator, and then I'm going to let you go. Is that okay?
Yeah, man, sure. Go ahead, Natalie.
All right. All right. Hello, good night.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Senator Morgan.
Good night, caller. Greetings.
I realize you don't recognize the voice. I'm just calling to publicly say congratulations to you. I have no question.
Oh, of course I'm not picking up the voice. One RT, never two.
Never two, only one. Well, there's a RT boss, but I don't dabble in that part.
RT boss from last
say congratulations. And this is just a general thing. It's not really a question, it's a suggestion. I was listening to the conversation. Not always agreeing, but we are friends from the opposite side. I hope you do more of this, where you break down the issues so people can understand where your party is coming from when they come with certain arguments, assertions. This kind of conversation is what we need, so that when we go to the polls, we go there informed and make real good decisions on behalf of the country. So I'm just congratulating you and hoping that you continue to do things like this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, RT, for those kind words. And of course, your useful suggestion, because programs such as these, they are the go-to, forms of and mediums of communication these days. People find them convenient. And the key thing with it too, it is not appointment TV or appointment radio. People can play back. I didn't watch Karen live last week.
Exactly.
I didn't watch Karen live last week, but one day, I think it was Ash Wednesday, the evening of Ash Wednesday, I watched her thing for over 3 hours. So it gives you a sense as to how these platforms, when people can watch it delayed. I didn't watch Natalie live last night, but in the wee hours of this morning, I got up and I was, getting some stuff in the washer and doing some laundry this morning. And that's when I was literally listening to the program and hear the thing and Conor O'Brien send our voice note and all kind of things. So
the man depend with Senator, the man depend.
So the good thing is that, these platforms are,
yeah,
the
man.
people place a premium on it, and precisely
Yeah.
I'll be endeavoring to have, make myself more available and come on these platforms.
Yeah, thank you, Carla.
All right, bless up, sister. Yeah, man,
same
same to you, my dear. One love, respect.
Well, Senator, I am going to wrap it up here, and I'm going to have to. People are already asking, when are you coming back? Because I can't have you here much longer, But I really appreciate the time that you spent talking with us. And yes, we are the average people, and we want to hear what is happening and what's in the plans and all these things. So thank you so much for stopping by. And I would like to do a part 2 at your convenience later on. But
Yeah, man, sure, absolutely. Probably either one day this week, later this week, or probably even next Monday again. I don't,
Okay,
but
cool.
we'll talk offline and work it out. And because there are some persons who may have sought to call in today but didn't quite get through to
Yes.
pose a question or bring a perspective to the fore. And then there are other matters that we can touch on, because quite frankly, this week, as you know, tomorrow the finance minister opens the budget debate. She'll be presenting the government's plans to finance the just under $1.3 trillion budget. We look forward to that.
Okay.
Also, Julian Robinson will speak in the budget debate later this week.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
cool. Well, thank you. Have yourself a wonderful night and have a wonderful time in the Senate.
Thanks for having me. Big up to your listeners, big up to your viewers, and it was a delight sharing with them over the past couple of hours, basically. Respect.
Yeah, man. Take care. Yes, JPU. So that was quite an interesting conversation, and I just want to apologize for anybody who was calling and didn't get through. We will talk again to the senator very soon. Hopefully, he said that he would come back, and I'm sure he's a man of his word. He will come back. So thank you all for calling in and for all your questions. I don't really have anything more to say for tonight, except except the upload that I did earlier. I want you guys to check it out, where Darrell Vaz was a bit livid about the situation with Mark Golding's citizenship. I mean, we're 3 months away from an election, and we expect people to be upfront and transparent and all that kind of thing. I want to ask you guys a question though. When last you see the opposition, the PNP, look like this? This evening, I found this picture and I was like, wow, I haven't seen anything like this. This was halfway through sometime, I want to say in 2012 or so? One of them time there, but a good while now. You understand? We always want to see our political parties vibrant. We want to see the political parties putting people to represent the Jamaican people who are competent, capable, well-mannered, set example that the country can follow. That is what we would like to see, right? Over this platform, as you can hear, JLP calling, PNP calling, the senator no problem with that. Him talk to everybody, answer everybody. That is the kind of politics that we want in Jamaica. We don't want no slash and burn, disrespectful kind of style. We are get rid of that from out our politics. So we want to can talk to everybody about everything because it's one Jamaica, right? Anyway, guys, thank you for participating and we will catch up. Take care.